Hey guys, so in this video for our PHP Motors website, we have created PHP server-side validation, HTML client-side validation, some functions for our navigation, and then as well as stickies for our inputs. Alright, to start off, we're looking at our home page for the PHP Motors website. You'll notice that our nav bar is currently showing, and within our main controller, we have commented out our navigation builder. And so what we've done to kind of get an idea of what's going on, to start off from the basics, to get our array here, you'll notice that this calls a function. And this function goes into this variable classifications. So if we go into our main model, that get classifications goes to this function here, and it selects it from our database, from our SQL operations, and then it goes through, places it within our classifications variable, and then at the very end it returns that classifications variables after it collects everything from our local database. And so now we'll go to the main controller again, and so it gets that function, returns that variable, and then places all that information within our classifications variable here. And then what we've done is we've created a new function within our functions.php within our library folder, and we've called this function classification navigation, and we've passed this parameter, which is our variable right here, and it creates it into our nav list variable. And so if we go into our functions PHP, you'll notice here we pass that parameter within here, and then it goes through and creates all of our HTML unordered list, and then our lists, and then it basically takes everything, goes through the function, builds all of our navigation, and then returns it back into this variable nav list. And you'll notice that kind of comes back here, and then now all of the information will be in this nav list variable. And then if you go into the home page, you'll notice that we echoed that through PHP here for that variable, that nav list. So now what that does is properly sets our nav bar for the top, that it's passed to that function, the function operates it, and then displays it to our HTML through this PHP tag, and we echo that variable that we just created. Okay, so going on, we'll look at our accounts here. So you'll notice the same thing with our PHP login page, and you'll notice it within our registration page. And so what we've had to do is go into our accounts, and one thing we've done is we've pulled that library, the functions within our accounts controller. And you'll notice it has the same exact setup of getting the classifications, putting it into a variable, and then we pass that variable into this classification navigation function within our functions page that we just created. And then it does the variable right here for the nav list, and then it displays it onto our page again. And one thing to note, we did that in the main controller as well, and it's a different way that we kind of passed it into this one. So like the accounts controller, it's got the backing up of the folder in order to access that functions, that library folder functions file. And then you need to note that that's something that we didn't need to do within our main controller, because we're already on the high level where we're able to go into it rather than needing to back out of a file. Okay, so let's go to our vehicles page here. So within our vehicles page, we've added a couple new things. You'll notice that the nav bar is now showing still, and that's something that we've done just like all the other ones as well. So we can go into our vehicles controller, and then it's the same exact setup. We have this commented out, so it's not doing the nav bar right here within the controller. Now it's being passed into this function, and we've called that function file and we've brought it into this controller. So now it's easy to access and put that into our page here. And one thing we want to do is we want to validate all of our HTML and our CSS. So within this page, looks like we're checking out everything's fine for this one. And then we'll check out the CSS. CSS is looking great as well. Alright, so now the next thing that we want to do is to check out our server-side validation and then our HTML validation. So the first thing that we'll test out is the HTML verification here, the validation. So if we click it and it doesn't have anything inputted in there, it'll basically give us this little code saying, please fill out this field. And if you quickly go into our code, so within this, you'll notice that right here we've put required. And now this required makes it directly into this HTML. This is our HTML client-side validation. And so what we can do now is we got this no validate, which then we'll turn off the HTML client-side validation, and it'll show our PHP server-side validation. And so if we don't have anything entered in, we'll just click the add classification, and it gives us this error directly from the PHP server-side validation. And so this is something that we've done based on this code that we've placed into our input that will capture that server-side validation and give us our error back into our HTML form here. And so now let's go back and let's check out the add vehicle portion. So you'll notice the add vehicle, we got our nav bar that's being ran through our function as well. And then so for here, we'll do the same things. Let's test out our HTML first. Looks like everything's checking out complete. We have no warning signs or issues. So let's check out our CSS. Okay, within our CSS we're looking good as well. We have no errors or anything found. And then we'll come back through and we'll do the same thing that we did with the classification when we're adding that. So we can put stuff here. And one thing I wanted to quickly note too is we'll do the sticky at the same time. So if we forget to fill everything out and we didn't put in price, didn't put the stock or color, and so what we'll do is we'll basically just click the add vehicle. It'll give us this error and say please fill out this field. And again, this is the HTML client-side validation that's being present. And so within our code, again, this is something that we have done based on having the required within our fields. So now it's telling the HTML that if it's not filled out, we're saying, hey, it's required. So make sure that the user knows that and don't continue until that's filled out properly. And so one thing you'll kind of note too is before in the past, we've made it so whenever you've done that, or actually, let's do the no validate first. So we'll test out the PHP server-side validation portion. And so we've done this. We've got portions of it filled in. We'll do add vehicle, and then here is our server-side validation. And so it's telling us to please provide information for all empty form fields. And one thing that you'll note is it did keep our sports, our Toyota, our Camry, and our car. And so this is something that we've currently made our fields sticky. So once the user has inputted data within the fields, and if they have any issues, it doesn't just erase everything. It keeps the data that has been entered in, and that is something that we have done through our PHP file here, and basically captures what was entered into there and takes the variable, the inventory make, and then the value it displays the variable inventory make. So whatever we enter into our fields, it's going to create a sticky and make sure that it's tied into our fields anytime that we fill them out, so it doesn't erase it all. And that concludes the video for today. Everything checks out and is good to go. and let me know if you have any questions.